Hey folks, Kele here, again with my friend Barb French, and today we're going to go a little in-depth about bird banding. So what exactly is a bird band?
Well, a bird band is a aluminum band that goes around the bird's leg. This is the type that we would use on a very large bird, not as big as you, but a big bird like a very large red-tailed hawk. And this one is called a lock-on band because how this is applied is this is put around the leg, and then we would use a pair of pliers to crimp this little tab over, and that way they can't get it off. Because way back in the day, this is the band we would use on kestrels that aren't as big as you are. As you can see, that's no way going to fit on your leg. It's not even going to fit on one of your toes. But this one is what's called a butt-end band, and it just fits on like this. And we have special pliers that we use to put these on, and we have to order these from a place up in Michigan. And these are made so you cannot possibly over-tighten the band. It's never going to go out of round, and so we want to make sure when it goes on that it's loose enough to spin on the leg, but not so loose that if it falls down, it's not going to make the toes so they can't move, because then you can't hunt. And if you can't hunt, you can't eat, and if you can't eat, that's not really good for you. So we want to make sure that that band is a good type. But the reason that they started to do these lock-on bands with this tab was early on in bird banding, they were using these types on all birds. Only the red tails and the bigger birds could get these off. So it's no good if it doesn't stay on the bird. So they had to come up with this. Well, even the eagles can get this off. So on the really big ones, we have to use a rivet gun to put those bands on, so the eagles can't get those bands off. But these bands have a unique 9-digit number on them, and these we get from the Central Banding Lab, which is down in Maryland. It's a federal band, and each of the bands has on it not only this thing, but also a 1-800 number that you can call if you find the band, and the newer ones also have their website on it, so you can also do this over the internet if you find this.
So I guess the next obvious question is, how in the world do you get those on a bird? Obviously we're not going to sit still for you.
No, you're not. And many of you kick a lot, and kestrels in particular bite. We call them knuckle biters because they'll try to nibble on your fingers while you're doing it. Well, first of all, we have to trap them, and so we trap them out here safely, and we bring them inside. And once we have them, I'm going to use Hector, who is one of our mascots here at Maine Blind. And he's a little fat, so he doesn't fit very well in the cans, but we pick a can size that where the bird is going to be fairly snug in there. We want the wings to be close to the body so they can't move around and injure themselves. But we don't want it so tight that they can't breathe. And we put them head first into these cans. As I said, he's kind of fat, and so the legs are sticking out. And this does a couple of things. Number one, it calms the bird down, because if you can't see and you rely on your sight, it actually calms them down. It doesn't make them panic. They've done studies of birds in cans and looked at their heart rate and their respiration, how fast they're breathing. And it comes right back down to normal, just a couple minutes of being in this can. It's kind of like a little bird spa, you know, so it's very calming. And so that gives us access to the legs. And then we can put these bands on and then use the pliers to get the bands onto the legs, which is a way that's safe for us and it's safe for the bird. Now when they're in the can, we can also take them and put them onto a scale. And each of these cans has a number on it. And the number is the weight of the can in grams. So then, when they have that number, we can deduct this number, and what's left is the weight of the bird. And then we pull the bird out. We would grab it by the legs and pull it out like this. Got the band on, and then we do what's called a wing cord. And the wing cord would be, on you, it would be from the bend in your elbow to your longest primary feather right here. So we would take that measurement. And for most birds, this is how we can tell the boys from the girls. Kestrels have different colored feathers for boys and girls, but most of them don't. You can only tell the boys and the girls from the size because the girls are bigger. But with some of the really big ones like red-tailed hawks, we can't even tell then because there's so much overlap in size that we just have to say, we don't know. So once they're done with that, they've got the wing cord, the weight, and they've got the band on the leg. Then comes the part that the bird likes the best.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. We release them.
Oh.
And they get to go on their way. Sometimes they'll land in a tree and they'll kind of pick at the band, but it's so light. I mean, for a bird, it's like, you know, wearing a watch or a fitness tracker like this one. They don't even notice it after a little while. They weigh almost nothing. I mean, you go like this, I mean, you can barely feel that band.
Yeah, she's right. You can barely tell it's even there.
So it doesn't hurt the bird in any way.
All right. So should we demonstrate at home how you get a band on a
Well,
bird's leg?
you're going to have to do it a little differently because we can't put you in a can. We don't have any cans that big.
I am the biggest bird around.
Right, so we're just going to do this. We do this normally on the right leg, and we would put it around, and I'm going to use my pliers because this is a lock-on band. So we're going to grab my pliers here, and we're going to just make sure that this is nice and tight. This is actually a little bit tight here, but we would want to make sure that we have some room here so that it doesn't make sure that the circulation is good, but it's not so small that it's not so big it's gonna fall off. So we're just going to take this off you for now because we want this to be, normally we want this band to be permanent, but that's why we use the metal and not cloth with Velcro.
So if you caught a bird that has a band on it already, what would you do with that?
Well, we'd be very, very happy because the reason that we band birds is so that we can track that individual over time. I mean, we're just humans. We can't tell one bird from another by looking at it. We can't tell that a bird we saw this season is one that we're going to see next season. So that's why we have the bands, is to be able to identify that bird as an individual. So when we get a bird that's already been banded, we're all very happy because that's going to tell us something more about the bird. So we would get that information, and just like anybody can do at home, we report that band to the banding lab. And then the banding lab sends us a report of every time this bird has ever been caught, when it was originally banded, where it's been. And doing that, we can track that bird by its activities, where it's been found, and where it's been and when it's been there. For example, one of our better ones was a couple years ago, we got an eagle that had been banded originally 2 months before in Florida. And we got it here, and we noticed it was already banded. Well, we knew it was a hatchier bird. We knew that it wasn't very old. So we were very excited to find out where it had come from. So we learned something about that bird, about where it started and where it was going.
That's some good information. Now, what should someone do if they happen to find a bird that has a band on it, say in their backyard?
Well, a lot of the times if the bird's hopping around, with a band this size, you're never going to be able to read the numbers. So in that case, I would just leave it alone. You can try taking a picture. Some people have been successful taking pictures with zoom lenses and getting some of the number, and sometimes they can line that up and find out more about it. Unfortunately, a lot of birds, when they have reported bands, because the bird has been found dead. And in that case, what you would do is you would record exactly where you found it. If you can get GPS coordinates on your phone or something, that's perfect. That's absolutely perfect. But you get as much information about the bird as possible. Does it look like it was, just died, or is this on an older, a bird that's obviously been there for a while? Get as much information as you can, and then use the 1-800 number, or even if you just go into Google and type bird band report, it'll come up with the right place to report that information.
Alright folks, that about wraps it up for this episode of Bird's Eye View. Our next episode, we're going to go in depth a little bit more into bird of prey migration. That should be fun. So thank you, Barb. We'll see you in the next video.